Sign it, or you can consider this your last day." Those were the exact words my boss, Dana, said to me as she slid a document across my desk. It was a Friday afternoon, and the office was nearly empty, except for the hum of the copier in the back and the weight of that ultimatum hanging in the air like thick fog. I looked down at the paper. It was a fraudulent invoice, money going out to a shell company I had never heard of, for services were never received. Dana wanted me to approve it. After 12 years of loyalty, 12 years of late nights and weekend sacrifice, that was my reward, being asked to lie, to break the law. And when I refused, she smiled, cold and smug. "Then pack your things," she said. "You're done." But what Dana didn't know is that I already suspected something like this was coming, and I wasn't going to leave quietly. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. I started working for Crestmore Solutions straight out of college. It wasn't a glamorous job, just accounts and ledgers, but I loved the order of it, the way everything added up if you looked close enough. Dana wasn't the CEO back then. She started a few years after me and worked her way up fast. She was sharp, ambitious, and ruthless. Everyone said she'd either become a billionaire or get sued. Possibly both. My first few years there were good. I had a mentor, Mr. Carlson, who taught me how to keep my work clean and my conscience cleaner. "Money's a slippery slope, Jason," he once told me. "You either walk the line, or you fall face first in the mud." That stuck with me, so I walked the line. As time passed, Dana took more control. She changed policies. Good people left. The ones who stayed either adapted or shut up. I guess I shut up more than I should have. But I needed the job. I was caring for my mom back then. She had Parkinson's, and every check helped. Things started to feel off about 2 years ago. Invoices didn't match. Numbers moved in ways they shouldn't. And Dana started asking questions that had nothing to do with accounting and everything to do with loopholes. I kept a folder. Every odd document. Every questionable email. I never thought I'd need them, but my gut told me otherwise. Then last Tuesday, she called me into her office and said, "We're expanding some of our assets offshore. I need your help processing a few things discreetly." That was a start. She never said the word fraud, but she didn't need to. The document said it for her. I stalled, asked questions, claimed I needed time to verify. That's when I saw her smile shift from sugar to venom. She knew I wasn't on board. She started isolating me. Meetings I was left out of. Tasks reassigned. Rumors began floating around that I wasn't performing well, that I was forgetful, maybe even unstable. That's when I knew Dana wasn't just dangerous. She was calculated, but I wasn't stupid either. The week before she fired me, I backed up everything to a secure drive, sent copies to my personal email, even shared them with someone I trusted. Still, nothing prepared me for that Friday. She came to my desk just after lunch with a paper in hand and said, "You're either in or you're out." I stayed at it. I could see my reflection on the glossy signature line. My hand trembled a bit, but I pushed it away. "No," I said. She didn't shout. She didn't argue. She just smirked and whispered, "Then you're done, hey?" I packed my things in a cardboard box while people watched from behind their screens. No one said anything, not even a goodbye. As I stepped out of the building, the California sun hit my face like a spotlight. I should have felt crushed. I didn't. I felt ready. But I didn't expect what would happen next. Subscribe and show support. After that awful meeting with Carl, I drove home in silence. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight I thought I might break it. My phone buzzed with a message from my wife, Jessica. "How did it go? Everything okay?" I didn't know how to answer. What could I say? "Hey, honey, I got fired today for not breaking the law." That sounded so crazy even in my head. I pulled into the driveway and just sat there for a minute. The house looked peaceful. Sunlight shining on the front steps. My son's bike lying on the grass. The sound of a lawnmower somewhere nearby. It felt like the world didn't even know mine had just cracked open. When I walked inside, Jessica met me at the door. She looked worried. I tried to fake a smile, but it didn't fool her. "David, what happened?" she asked. I sighed and sat down on the couch. "I got fired." She froze. "What? Why?" "You've been with that company forever." I looked down at my hands. Carl wanted me to fudge some numbers. Said it would help us close a quarter stronger and impress the board. I told him I wouldn't do it. He said I was being difficult. Then he fired me. Jessica's eyes welled up. Are you serious? That's illegal. Yeah, I said, my voice low. But proving it? That's going to be hard. We sat there for a long time, holding hands, not saying much. The room felt heavy. Eventually, I stood up and went to pick up my son, Josh, from school. I didn't want him to see me upset. I had to stay strong for him. At school, Josh came running up to me, his backpack bouncing. Dad, I got a gold star in reading today. That's amazing, buddy, I said, ruffling his hair. You make me proud. His little face lit up. That helped more than I could explain. That evening, Jessica and I sat down after Josh went to bed. We had to talk about money. We had some savings, but not a lot. My job was our main source of income. We made a plan to tighten our budget and started looking into my options. Maybe I could do consulting. Maybe even start something on my own. Then, something strange happened. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, Mr. Carter? This is Amanda from HR. I'm calling unofficially. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what happened. I saw the paperwork come through, and it didn't sit right with me. I sat up straight. Thank you, Amanda. That means a lot. She hesitated. I've been working here for 6 years, and I've seen some stuff. But this was different. Carl asked me to process your termination without the usual sign-offs. And the memo he submitted, it had nothing about fraud. It said your position was being restructured. My stomach turned. They were covering it up. Amanda, would you be willing to talk to someone about this? If I decide to take legal action. There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, if it comes to that, I think I will. As I hung up, my mind was spinning. I had just found my first crack in their plan. But what I didn't know was that things were about to get much, much worse. Do subscribe and show support. I was still trying to process what had just happened when I got home that evening. My head was spinning, and my heart felt heavy. I sat on the couch in my tiny living room, my old dog Baxter curling up beside me like he always did when he sensed I was upset. He didn't need words to know something was wrong. He just stayed close, giving me the kind of comfort only a pet can give. The silence in the room felt deafening, but inside my mind there was a storm. I replayed every word from that meeting with Karen. Her smile, her voice when she told me I was done, the way she pretended to care, like she was doing me a favor. I'd given my life to that company, 12 years of loyalty, long nights, skipped vacations, and constant dedication. And just like that, gone. I remembered when I first started there. I was 27, full of hope and ready to prove myself. I didn't have much growing up. My parents worked hard just to keep the lights on. So when I landed a job as a junior financial analyst at Harlow & Park, I thought it was my big break. And it was, for a while. I worked hard. I always did. Not because I wanted to be the richest guy in the room, but because I believed in honesty. I believed in building a good life by doing the right thing. My boss back then, James Holloway, was a good man. He believed in the same things I did. He mentored me, showed me the ropes, and always reminded me that integrity mattered. He retired 5 years ago. That's when everything started to change. When Karen took over, the vibe shifted. At first, she was all smiles and energy, talking about growth and expansion. But little by little, I started to notice cracks. Weird accounting moves. Budgets getting shuffled around without reason. Big clients coming in, then suddenly vanishing without explanation. One afternoon, about a year ago, she asked me to move a large amount of money from one account to another. It didn't feel right. The numbers didn't match up, and when I asked for clarification, she brushed me off, saying it was just a temporary adjustment to satisfy quarterly reporting. That was the first red flag. I didn't push back too hard, but I logged everything. Every email, every transaction, every strange request, just in case. Then, a month before I was fired, Things got worse. Karen called me into her office and said she needed me to do something special. She wanted me to adjust the numbers on a report that was going to be sent to investors. She said it was just to buy some time. "You know how this game works. David," she said with a smirk, "numbers are more about story than fact." That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just dancing around the edges. She was deep into fraud, and she wanted me to be a part of it. I told her no. I couldn't do it. I told her I'd worked too hard to throw away my integrity. Her smile faded fast, and she didn't say much else. But I knew I had just put a target on my back. Now here I was, sitting in my apartment, unemployed, blacklisted from the only industry I'd ever known, and trying not to spiral. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Rachel, my former co-worker. She had stayed quiet during my firing, but always looked uncomfortable whenever Karen was around. "Call me. I know something." The message read. I didn't hesitate. I called her immediately. She answered after just one ring. "David," she whispered, "you were right. Karen's been hiding stuff. A lot of stuff. I've seen the files." My pulse jumped. "Rachel, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I think she's been embezzling money for years. And I think she framed you to keep herself safe." Before I could respond, there was a knock at my door, a loud, heavy knock that echoed through the apartment. I walked over slowly, peeking through the peephole. A man in a dark suit stood there, holding a brown envelope. He knocked again. "Mr. Miller, you've been served." My heart dropped. I opened the door and took the envelope with shaking hands. I opened it, and my eyes widened. I was being sued for defamation. Do subscribe and so support. The letter came on a Tuesday morning. It was hand-delivered in a thick envelope that looked way too serious for the average person. David opened it and sat still for a few seconds, heart racing. It was a lawsuit. Karen was suing him for defamation. His stomach sank. Not only had she fired him, but now she was accusing him of publicly damaging her reputation. The letter claimed David had been going around telling people she was involved in financial misconduct. Karen's lawyer alleged it was all false and that David was trying to get revenge. The irony made David want to scream. He hadn't even gone public with anything. He'd only been gathering proof quietly. Now she was trying to scare him into silence. It was a bold move, and for a moment, it worked. David began to second-guess himself. Was he really ready to fight this battle? After pacing the living room for an hour, he called his friend Marcus. Marcus was a lawyer, civil cases, mostly, but he'd always been honest and level-headed. When David explained everything, Marcus sighed. "She's bluffing. This is a scare tactic, but it could still get messy." They met later that day at a diner. Marcus read the letter twice, his face unreadable. "She knows you're close to exposing something. She's trying to flip the game." "I haven't even told anyone yet," David said. "I've been careful." "Doesn't matter. If she thinks you have evidence, that's enough for her to panic." David took a breath. "What do I do now?" Marcus looked around and then leaned in. "You do exactly what you plan to do. Get the proof. Only now, you'll need to be twice as careful." David spent the next 2 weeks digging deeper. He revisited the files he'd saved on his home computer. He rechecked invoices, emails, and receipts. One document stood out, an email thread between Karen and a third-party vendor that had billed the company over $400,000 for services that didn't exist. The vendor's listed address was an empty lot in Oregon. Something was seriously wrong. He traced the payment route. The money had been wired through several dummy corporations and ended up in an offshore account registered to a shell company. The registered owner? A name he didn't recognize at first, until he Googled it and found an old LinkedIn profile with a single connection, Karen Monroe. He called Marcus again. "I think I found it. The smoking gun." Marcus arranged a meeting with a federal financial crimes investigator. They met at a quiet coffee shop, and David handed over everything, documents, emails, files. The agent, a no-nonsense woman named Agent Pierce, nodded as she looked through them. "You've been very thorough, Mr. Lawson. We'll take it from here." David exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. 2 days later, while sitting at home organizing a few more files, David's phone rang. It was his former co-worker, Teresa. Her voice shook. David, the office just got raided. Federal agents. They walked Karen out in handcuffs. David stood up so fast he knocked over his coffee. What? She's arrested. The whole floor saw it. They froze her accounts. Everyone's in shock. David sat back down slowly, his heart thumping hard. He should have felt relief, but all he felt was the eerie quiet of a storm just beginning. Because now Karen was cornered, and desperate people do desperate things. When Karen was taken away in handcuffs, the office felt like it had stopped breathing. Some people stared. Some whispered. Others refused to look at all. I stood frozen in place, the moment heavier than anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't victory. It wasn't happiness. It was something else. Something hollow. After 12 years, this wasn't how I wanted to leave. The detective who had handled my complaint, Detective Reeves, nodded at me respectfully as he walked past. I nodded back. That nod held 1,000 words. Thank you. I'm sorry. Justice, at a price. As the door closed behind them, there was this eerie silence. For a few seconds, all you could hear were the humming fluorescent lights and the soft whoosh of the air vents. Then, slowly, my co-workers began whispering again. I couldn't meet anyone's eyes. I just walked to my desk. I grabbed my things. My mug, a photo of Jenny and the kids, a notepad filled with doodles and numbers, a tiny stress ball I never used. I placed them carefully into the cardboard box HR gave me. I didn't need a reminder that I was still technically fired. Karen had tried to destroy me, but in trying, she destroyed herself. I was on my way out when Brad stepped forward. Eli, wait. He looked different now, less smug, less cocky. Just like a regular guy. What is it, Brad? He glanced down at the floor, then up again. I'm sorry. I really didn't know what she was doing. I thought you left because you wanted to. And when she said all that stuff about your mental break, I laughed bitterly. I never had a mental break. Brad, I just refused to break the law. I know now. And I told the board everything. About the fake reports, the invoices, how she pushed you to change numbers. I should have come forward sooner. Yeah, you should have. But I guess better late than never. I didn't offer forgiveness. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I nodded, and we left it at that. The next few weeks were strange. I wasn't sure what to do with myself. I spent more time with Jenny, took the kids to the park, started baking weird Pinterest recipes I had no business attempting. It felt nice, but that hollow feeling still clung to me. I didn't just want to live. I wanted to matter. I needed purpose again. That's when I got the email. It was from someone on the board, a woman named Laura Jensen. She had always been quiet during meetings, one of those suits who watched and listened but never spoke. Her message was short. Would love to talk. Can we meet for coffee? I was hesitant, but curious. We met at a local cafe 2 days later. She wore jeans and a hoodie, nothing like the formal blazer I remembered her in. You did the right thing, Eli, she said, skipping any small talk. It didn't feel like it. Not at first. She smiled, sipping her tea. That's how you know it was the right thing. It wasn't easy. You could have looked away, kept your job, played safe. But you didn't. I raised an eyebrow. You're not just here to give me a moral trophy, are you? She laughed. No, I'm here because the company needs fixing. Not just patching the holes Karen left, but rebuilding the culture, making it right. And I want you to help. You want me to come back? I asked, stunned, not as a number cruncher, as our new ethics officer. Help us create better systems, better people. It felt like a movie scene. I blinked twice. I'm still technically fired. She chuckled. Then let's unfire you and give you a better title. It took a few days to think it over. Jenny and I had long talks. I didn't want to go back into something toxic, but maybe I could be part of what made it healthy again. Maybe that was the point of all this. Not revenge, not money, but purpose. I returned to the office 2 weeks later. Same parking lot, same automatic doors, but everything felt different. People greeted me now, really greeted me. No fake smiles. No side glances. Brad even brought me coffee. The board released a statement explaining Karen's actions, the changes being made, and my new position. I didn't expect applause. I didn't need it. All I needed was to make things better than before. I started hosting monthly ethics seminars, implementing anonymous reporting tools, and even doing one-on-ones with staff to hear their real thoughts. Slowly, the company began to shift. Culture wasn't easy to fix, but it was possible. And just when I thought things had settled, something happened. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon. I was reviewing a report when my assistant knocked and handed me an envelope. No return address. No markings. Just my name, handwritten. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "You think it's over. It's not." My hands went cold. There was no signature. Just that message. And a small, blurry photo of my house. Subscribe for the next chapter. Something's coming. Something terrifying. Stay tuned. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The message burned into my mind. If you know what's good for you, walk away. You don't want to know how far this goes. But I couldn't walk away. Not after everything that had happened. I had spent 12 years building my reputation. I had been fired for doing the right thing. And now I was being threatened for simply knowing the truth? I forwarded the anonymous message to Officer Daniels and emailed a copy to my attorney, Martin Hale. We scheduled a meeting the next morning, both of them urging me not to go anywhere alone. I was scared, sure. But more than that, I was angry. I had already lost my job, my security, and my peace of mind. I wasn't about to lose my voice too. That morning, I walked into the conference room at Hale and Partners, clutching the printed emails, the Excel files, the screenshots, and the signed documents. Martin looked them over carefully while I explained the connections between the fake vendor accounts, the wire money, and the new name Tanner Brixby, a supposed contractor who didn't exist but whose payments linked back to someone with a private offshore account. This, Martin said, is more than fraud. It's corporate-level embezzlement. You're not just blowing a whistle anymore. You're walking into a storm. Officer Daniels joined us and nodded grimly when he saw the files. "We just got a subpoena for your former company's financials," he said. "This helps, but we'll need your cooperation through the whole case." "I'll do whatever it takes," I said. Still, fear gripped me like cold metal. Later that week, my story hit the news. It started small, just a local outlet reporting a whistleblower claim involving a mid-sized logistics company. Then one of the reporters connected the dots and released a larger expose. The headline read, "Former VP claims boss fired her for refusing fraud, company under investigation." And just like that, it went viral.